Okay, so now we're going to be talking about conditionals. Conditionals are a very important part of programming, all programming, because think about HTML. So we've learned that HTML and CSS, they're cascading languages. They just happen from top to bottom, and that's just kind of how they roll. They start at the top and they finish at the bottom, and then they just go right on down. And the thing about JavaScript is that we don't always want all of our code just to execute in order all of the time. We want sometimes some things to happen and sometimes other things to happen. And that concept, the idea of sometimes some things happening and sometimes other things happening, really pretty hard to overstate how important that is in programming. It's kind of the whole magical thing about programming is the fact that sometimes some things can happen and other times other things can happen. So let's have a look at how we do that. The simplest form of a conditional statement is an if statement. So let's say if, and then I could write something like 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Then we can console log good math. And then if we open up our little inspector here, we can see it says good math. So you'll notice that I use the double equal sign here. A single equal sign, you can see it's like, uh-oh, I expected a conditional. Now, remember how when we want to assign value in JavaScript, we use a single equal sign, let name equal Joseph. So the concept of a single equal sign, it's already used up when it comes to our available symbols that we have at our disposal in JavaScript. The single equal sign is for assigning value. So when I say name is equal to Joseph, I'm telling the computer name is the name of a variable and it is equal to this data. It is equal to Joseph. And so we can't use the single equal sign when it comes to doing comparisons or essentially asking the computer questions like this. And in that situation, we need to use the double equal sign. So here you can see I'm saying if 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, then we're going to console log out good math. And then you can see if I was to change this to a not equal sign like that, now you can see good math doesn't come up anymore. Or we could have it look like this. We could say if 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, good math, and then we could say else. You see the syntax looks like that. We could console log bad math. So you can see here now, this is good math, and then if I change this to if 1 plus 2 is equal to 2, now you can see it says bad math. So that is sort of that's kind of the real meat of the concept of conditionals. There's ifs and elses. And there's also another thing called an else if. Or maybe it's called an if else. I can't remember. We'll find out as we go. So I'll get rid of this example for now. And we could say if name is equal to Joseph, then we're going to say console log hello Joseph. And then we could say else if, pretty sure it's else if, name is equal to Gerard. And then we'll console log out hello Gerard. And then we could have else, and we could say hello someone else. So you can see now here it says hello Joseph. Then if I was to change this to Gerard, now it says hello Gerard. And then if we were to change this to Rohan, now you see it says hello someone else. So an else if means, did this thing happen? No. If this didn't happen, did this happen? And then it's like, no, it didn't. Okay, hello someone else. So, and if we didn't have that else there, if we weren't kind of having a sort of a fallback, essentially, when we do it, it just doesn't say anything because name is not equal to Joseph and it's not equal to Gerard. So then in that case, we're just not going to do anything. So that is really the main kind of concept of that. So you can see here we're covering these ones, covering this, if, else if, and if. There's a switch case. I actually really don't like switch cases. I never personally use them. But let's look at how they look anyway. I can just never remember the syntax for it because I think that it's kind of ugly, so I just don't do it. But this is the way that they look. Oh god, so unappealing. So you can see you've got the word switch and then whatever the, so in this case I had name before. They've got which I guess is short for expression maybe. And then you can see this is the syntax of a switch case. You've got the thing you're switching on, so this is kind of like the you could sort of say it's kind of like a argument going into a function. And then here we say, in the case of this happening, do this thing. In the case of this happening, in the case of this happening, in the case of this happening. And then here, the default part is what happens if none of the other conditions get fulfilled. So if exp is not any of these things, then this part, the default bit, is going to happen. Some people like switch cases. I just find this way harder to pass in my brain when I see all of this going on, like all of these things indented in and out of each other, and it kind of looks like a weird function and stuff. So I personally I just write everything like this. I just love the sort of simplicity of if, else if, else if. Like that just looks good to me. Other people disagree, and they like doing it this way, and that is completely fine. You'll try one and try the other, and then all going well, you'll feel the same way that I do. And then there is one other kind of conditional that we can talk about here called the ternary. Unlike switch cases, I really like the ternary operator. So the way that the ternary operator works is it's kind of like a way of doing an if-else statement all on one line. So let's look at how that looks. We'll just do same example as before. Let's say let name is equal to Joseph. And then here we would have like let greeting equal. And then here is the part, this is the ternary operator part. It's a little bit of a weird syntax when you first see it. It'll take you a while to kind of like remember it or kind of get your head around what it's doing. But it's actually very cool because it's very succinct. It's a good way of essentially doing the logic of an if-else statement, but just in one line. So we could say let greeting equals, and then we say name is equal to Joseph. So this is the kind of conditional part. Then you put a question mark, and then you put what happens if it's true. So we would say hello Joseph. And then you put a colon, and then what happens if it's false. So we'd say like hello worst person. So then here, if we console log out greeting, you can see it says hello Joseph. And if we were to change this to just random string, I'm not going to write a real person's name because otherwise it's I'm insulting them. And you can see now that greeting is hello worst person. So this syntax, it's when you first see it, it's kind of unappealing seeing all of this happening, especially when you're doing like an equals and then an equals equals thing. It's a little bit more appealing if you're doing something along the lines of like a comparison, like if one number is greater than the other. So we're going to say let greeting equal hello Joseph if 1 is greater than 2, otherwise it's going to be this. So that's the way that ternaries work. I could go through and I could solve some of these problems, but maybe I'll do this first one. So write a function named isMatch that uses an if statement to check two values for strict equality. So that would look like this. Function isMatch, and it's going to take in two variables. We could just call them A and B. And then here we're going to say, what does it want us to do? It should return the string match if the two values match. Okay. if A equal to B, return match. Oh yeah, and you can see here, so this, they're asking for strict equality. So you can see in this situation, they are passing in a 1, as in the number 1, and a 1 inside a string, as in the string that is 1. So I think, let's just see this, I'm pretty sure that kind of what they're getting at is that this is true. Yeah, so this is true. 1 and 1 inside quote marks are kind of the same. JavaScript calls this truthy. And then here, if we go like this, now it's false because they're not exactly the same as each other. So if I make this a strict equals, now you can see that function is passing all of them. So that's it, I reckon, for conditionals. They're super powerful, very important. You'll be writing a lot of them. And now we're going to move on to talk about loops. So I'll see you soon.